Ana Olive, Pop Rock Radio. Estás escuchando Jamie Roxx de Pop Rock Radio. Manténganse al tanto.
Hej, det här är Hits från Sverige och ni lyssnar till Pop Rock Radio med Jamie Roxx.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. This is the Pop Roxx Radio Talk Show. I'm your host, pop art painter Jamie Roxx. This is the big show. You found it. I sure am glad you did. Hey, I'm super excited tonight. We've got the fine folks over at Curtain Call Records sent me their EPK. For those not in the business, that's the electronic press kit. And cats like me get it, and the first thing we do is start listening to tracks, watching videos, and checking it out and everything. And I was blown away when I first saw this band, and just super talented, turned up to 10, and just a lot of fun. Just a cool band, very cool. And we've got Mr. Jason Dove, lead vocalist and guitarist for Virginia Suite.
Yeah, happy to be here, Jamie.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you are too. Really puts a pep in my step. I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we are having a very good, knock on wood, but we're having a very good Monday so far. It was fantastic. Me and the wife had to go to our accountant today. Tax time.
Lovely.
And folks, when you're self-employed, my wife has a straight job too, but the majority of, she's got a straight job and about 87 side hustles as well. But if you're self-employed or have a bunch of side hustles, and you go to when it's tax time, you get a little nervous. You get a little nervous because you're usually writing checks. And man, we went through all this stuff and entered in. And the accountant, he just doesn't enter in a couple numbers. You're booking airline tickets or something. Just on there, like he's on the Matrix or something. But I'm not complaining because he got done. He leans back in his chair. Old Wayne, he's a good guy. And this is how much money you're getting back. And we're like, getting back? We're used to money going out, not
That's
coming
awesome.
in. Yeah, we were pleasantly surprised with that. So that was a good thing. And the day just keeps getting better. It was stormy. I didn't have to mow the grass today because it got rained out. And it's good for the plants and less for me to do. Anyway, and then we got Virginia Suite on tonight. How cool is that?
That's
I got
right.
the coolest job in the world. Yeah, it's awesome. Fantastic. Very cool. Now, Jason, we were talking a little bit before coming on camera that you grew up in Virginia, but you're living in North Carolina now, right?
Yeah, I bounced between North Carolina and Florida. But I grew up in Northern Virginia, born and raised there, spent, I guess, full 18, 19 years of my life there.
Gotcha.
And then moved to California for a while, and then moved back to Virginia, and then ended up in Minnesota. And then that's where the start of the band was actually, is we were originally all met in the Minneapolis area. Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool people. I always have a good time. Every time I've ever been to Minneapolis, I always have there's some interesting people that live in Minneapolis.
Interesting's good.
Yeah, I'm telling you, memorable. I did that too. I moved to Southern California after college. I went to school in Boston, and I said, man, I got to live somewhere out of this winter. I'm sick of shoveling the parking spot in front of our building. And
without a doubt, man.
Yeah, I looked on a map and I said, what's the opposite of Boston? It was like San Diego was blinking. And so I moved, I went out to San Diego, and I spent 10 years, spent a decade out there. And then California is weird in so much, there's a lot of weird aspects of California. But for me, one day you're living out there and you're just living your life and doing your thing. And then I've only heard like alcoholics in recovery describe something comparable. And that is, suddenly I had a moment of clarity. And I remember I was writing checks. I was paying my bills, doing the monthly bills. And I had a moment of clarity. I'm like, geez, Louise, look at this. Man, if I moved to Pigeon Forge or somewhere, I could live like a king from what I'm paying here. This is insane. And then you start, you're like, how long have I been doing this? And you're like, 10 years. And you start adding up. You're like, holy moly, this is a lot. And the housing crisis had just happened. People weren't buying art. They were buying shotgun shells and canned food. Yeah, rich people tighten their belts quick. It was not the time to be selling art. And so I knew all these people from school and just travels and stuff all over the country. And I said, I'm going to go visit some friends. I'm going to take 6 months was the plan. It was closer to a year. And I'd go see a friend for a couple weeks here or a month there as a hobo. But I was checking out to see where I wanted to relocate. That was the plan. And I wound up, I was getting ready to go back to California and said, I throw in the towel, go back, get back to work. Things had settled down economically a little bit. And my friend who lives in Florida over on the Gulf side, I'm just up from Fort Lauderdale. She said, before you go back out west, I know you'll never visit Florida. Come visit me for a couple of years. Your name's on the door, right? And I said, yeah, I can do that. So I came down, and I used to be a club rat. I used to go to a lot of nightclubs. That's where people that buy my paintings hang out. And so I was hanging out. So she says, there's this new club in Naples that opened. We got to go. And I'm like, oh, man, really? A Florida nightclub? Never been to one, but I was prejudging. I just was over that part of my life. But we went, and I wound up meeting my wife. One thing led to another, and here we are. And the other day I was thinking about this, and I'm like, I'm spending about where we live.
About the same.
Yeah, it's an upper middle class neighborhood. It's certainly, I've lived in worse places, and I started looking at the money, and I'm going, yeah, I'm pretty much exactly where I started out. Have a house now, I got a dog, got a wife, but yeah, it's weird how life does that.
You just folded the map in half, and you're still the same amount of sunshine. So
exactly,
you got to pay for the sunshine, man.
That's what it is. And you can't see it now, but I got a big window here in the studio, and in the daytime, you look out, you see all the palm trees swaying and shit, and the ocean's down the street, and I'm like,
the view alone's worth the money.
Yeah, I grew up in Metro Detroit, and I'm like, it's not Detroit. There's no burning cars out there. That's a plus. I've never heard a gunshot here. Hopefully that continues.
Boy.
So where you're at, though, North Carolina is beautiful. When I was a kid,
it's gorgeous.
My dad was an engineer, and he did his own thing, but he also did some contract work for GM and Ford, Rockwell, a bunch of big names. Okay. And he would have these headhunters whenever he was looking for something new to wine and dine him. And they flew the whole family. I remember going to North Carolina. They flew the whole family for him to go have a job interview, which was pretty cool. Yeah, we went to North Carolina, and I've never seen that much green. Everything was green, just green everywhere.
North Carolina to me is like a smaller California. Like Northern California, San Francisco up is very representative of how it feels in North Carolina, but at the same point, you also get like the Southern attitude and Southern hospitality of the United States, because Asheville is like San Francisco to me. It's very
dippy.
It's hippy dippy. It's artsy, but it's a strong.
But people are nice. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's a strong local community, just like San Francisco. It's one of the few cities in the world that doesn't let certain corporations in just for business because they want to keep the money local. And that's the same kind of attitude in Asheville. But then also you drive 4.5 hours to the coast, and then you've got beaches. It's not a 9-hour drive from the mountains to beaches like it is in California. But yeah, you get a good mix. You get all 4 seasons. It never gets too drastically cold. You still deal with the heat, the humidity, and heat of the Southeast, but it's a good balance.
Part of it. People ask me all the time. They're like, "Doesn't it get?" I'm like, "Not when you're by the ocean. It's not that bad."
The totally different heat.
Yeah, and it's no different. When I lived in Detroit growing up, 6 months out of the year, you were inside somewhere. It was too cold to do shit outside. And Florida's like that. We don't do a lot in the middle of the summer. You get hurricanes and shit, but you prepare. The thing about hurricanes is you have warning. California with earthquakes and shit, there's no warning. Shit just starts falling off the shelf. You're like, what the hell's going on? A hurricane, they tell you 2 weeks in advance, and it's like watching a turtle attack you. You're like,
yeah.
The first day you always freak out. You're like, okay, let me put all the lawn furniture up. Let me get everything, all the hatches battened down. Let me go to the store and buy supplies, which you then eat the first night. Like, okay, let me go to the store again and get not as good supplies so I don't eat them all. And yeah, Cheetos is not a good thing for hurricane preparedness.
No.
I'm eating that stuff with a hot pocket. But yeah, it's not bad. But yeah, Asheville is beautiful, man. My wife is the hippy dippy one in our family. She owns a crystal bit. She's into all that shit.
Yeah.
She's into all that stuff. And I don't complain. I've been with women who had way worse habits or interests. She's into all that stuff. But I do think, because I've experienced this personally, there are certain towns, certain cities in the world, I don't know if they're on a ley line or what it is, or all the things just convert. Asheville is one of those places where you roll into town and you're like, I always am like, I'm going to make money here. There's some money to be made here, which is always a good thing. But there's just cool stuff and cool people. It's not. There's a few towns like Savannah, Georgia is one of them.
We just played there on Friday.
Yeah, you get that feeling when you're there. You're like,
absolutely, every time.
New Orleans, Portland, Oregon. There's certain places around Montreal, but it's interesting to me. It's interesting, and then you roll into some place like maybe San Diego is a good example of that, where you don't have that feeling. You're like, yeah, there's very little going on here.
Right.
It's not. And I'm not putting San Diego down. I'm just saying the good thing about San Diego is it's fairly close to LA. So if you want to get a little wild or something,
you can still hit it.
It's going to be a drive, but
I think mundane would be a good word for it.
Mundane, that's a very good word. But yeah, Cincinnati, very similar.
Oh yeah.
I gotta say, the weird thing about Cincinnati is I don't know a lot of bands or music people from Cincinnati, but I know a grip. At least I can think of 100 people right now that are into independent film. They make like indie movies and stuff.
Interesting.
And they're all from Cincinnati. Yeah, so there's a lot of, I guess it's just what's going on where you're at. How's the music scene there in North Carolina, especially for rock music and hard rock music like you guys have?
It's definitely a music state, without a doubt. All genres of music. There's venues everywhere. It's not as like, say, dense as like a downtown LA where there's 4 venues on one block, but it definitely spread throughout the state. There's solid venues, especially getting into tying in like the breweries and things where they're playing live music. And overall, I'd say it's actually a good spread.
Awesome.
Even like I said, even the smaller places, breweries that are hosting music 7 days a week, they've got full-on stages and sound systems, and some of it's a little DIY, but there's a enthusiasm behind it that is very refreshing.
I gotcha.
Yeah, we came from a Minneapolis area. We toured on the East Coast, and the demand was just there that we needed to get back to the East Coast. So that's actually how North Carolina works very well for us, because it's very centrally located. It's 6 hours to DC. It's 6 hours to Jacksonville, Florida. We can't really shake a stick at that. It's 6-7 hours to Nashville.
No. And you've got all the Cape Hatteras, all that area. What's the big? Oh, it's where all the amusement parks, everything is. I can't think of the name of it right now. My in-laws just vacation there at the beach in North Carolina. There, it's
like the Wilmington beaches.
Yeah, that neck of the woods. There's a Myrtle Beach. That's what I'm trying to think of. Yeah, that whole area. A lot of venues there and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but they're set up for that. And that's cool. When I moved to South Florida, I originally moved to Fort Myers, the Gulf side. I didn't know any better. I'd never been to Florida. And honestly, when I moved to Florida, I was thinking, I'm an old man. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to be selling paintings to cartel leaders. And this is great. I was expecting Miami Vice.
Just straight off the boat.
Yeah, and I moved to Fort Myers, and it was monster trucks and opioids.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't. When it was funny because my wife had just finished school up over there. And I said, I'm glad Spider-Man's not here because he'd be out of work. There's no buildings. This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And she's like, settle down there, Picasso, settle down. And she took me over to this coast where we live now. And it's all it's all high rises. And
oh, yeah.
I said, I haven't seen a monster truck in forever. This is fantastic.
It's crazy how quick it changes in Florida.
People don't send me emails. I'm not putting anybody down, but I was just taken, surprised. And we moved here. But the thing that people don't get about music-wise, it's all hip-hop, it's all ED, it's big clubs. It's like the Strip on Vegas. That's the crowd. Pretty people paying way too high covers to get into venues. But that's the scene.
For $20 cocktails.
Yeah, that's what it is. And so I don't go out that much. And my club days are behind me anyway. But it's weird because it's not Southern at all. If anything, it's probably more akin to New York. And the people are rude a little bit, very self-absorbed, very entitled. And people will reach over your shoulder at the grocery store to grab what you're looking at.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and you're like, that's a way to get shot in Detroit. You know what I mean? And but every place is different. Like when I lived in California, people flaky as hell. And they would even admit it. They're like, oh, California, people are just flaky. Sorry, I'm 2 hours late.
Yeah.
And whenever I would do business with anybody, I would start the business meeting out and go, understand, I'm not from here. I don't understand or accept or do well with flakiness. So let's try to keep that in mind as our relationship continues here.
For you, man, I got to start conversations like that.
Yeah,
too.
I said, I want to maintain friendship, and I don't want to be Darth Vader force choking people.
Right.
But yeah, Southern Florida is very New York-esque. It's crazy. But you realize they're like, oh, they're not attacking me personally. They're just being assholes.
They just don't know I exist.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not all that bad. But yeah, it's different. It's different. But every place is like that. I really like where you're at. And because the people are just so super nice. And it's nice to be around that.
It is.
Every kid young person I mentor a couple people, and everyone I tell, I say, I don't care what kind of art you're doing, painting, whatever. One of the key things that you have to learn as a creative person, music, whatever, be a good hang. People like to work with good hangs. If you're a creep or a jerk, nobody's going to want to work with you.
Yeah.
So that's what you got to do, especially in music. The weird thing about music is word will travel quick.
Faster than you can blink.
Yeah. And that's why I hear stories, this venue, blah, 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 in New Mexico. I said, they won't be in business long. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a mistake on the chessboard. But how did you guys met in Minneapolis? I've always hung out. I don't have no musical ability whatsoever. But
that's good. We need listeners in the crowd.
Yeah, I love listening.
Because otherwise there'd be nobody to listen to the music if we all played it.
Exactly. But I've always been jealous of musicians on a couple reasons. Number one, they're always fun I always hung out with musicians my whole life. They're fun to hang out with. In my single days, they always knew a lot of girls. You want to meet a girl, go to a band party somewhere. That's where you got to go. And my film friends, all they'll do is put you to work. You'll wind up working on an indie for no money, and they need everybody all hands on deck for what they're doing. But bands usually form. Somebody will have an idea and say, okay, I want to do this. And they'll know all these people in the scene. They're like, we got to get that guy drumming. I know he's in 87 other bands because there's no drummers around, but we got to get him. Got to get him on bass. And that's usually how that coalesce. Is that how it happened with you guys?
Not at all.
Really?
Not in the slightest. Originally, we were actually a part of another group that was a funk rock band. We had a female vocalist at that point in time. And we had a big year lined up. We were headed to South by Southwest, and all the touring was set up, and then COVID happened. So then, as everybody knows, it's a grand reset. You figure out exactly what you want to be doing, what you really find joy in, and at that point, our singer had started to phase out from rehearsals and things like that. So
she's doing the same thing. She's like, you know what? Maybe I want to focus on my marriage, whatever it was.
Yeah, everybody's figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
And so The guitarist ended up going to Nashville to help a band that we had done some touring with. And while he was in the studio, he was waiting for Bob Seger's sax player to show up. And he was just playing one of the riffs, and the sound engineer pops on the intercom. He's like, "What is that?" "Oh, that's one of the songs I've been working with the guys." And he's like, "You need to put that other thing to bed and do that, because that is money." Oh. And so he calls me, and he's like, "Hey, they really like our stuff. I think we should probably dive into this." Absolutely. By the time he got back in, so same drummer that was in the other project, guitarist, and then at that point I was only playing bass. And we started off just doing some jams, and it was a little bit more instrumental. And then all of a sudden one day, Jason Jump, ends up dropping the ball of who's going to sing. And everybody looks at me. And the rest was kind of history. This is nice. I hadn't sang in a band before. And so I was posed with an opportunity to take it and run with it. And so that's what we did.
But you got the movie star looks and stuff, and the hair.
Didn't all start this way, man. I used to have a buzzed head, and I had a foot-long beard.
Wow.
Yeah, we did the total flip.
So when you were starting out the first band, I didn't hear correctly. Was it a funk rock band or a punk rock?
Yeah, funk rock. No,
funk rock.
Yeah, it was like funk, soul-based. The singer at that point was very soul R&B, and then the three of us, the instrument side of it was very rock influenced. So that's where that kind of meshed together. It was rock with very soulful R&B kind of funk lyrics.
The reason I asked for that clarity, ladies and gentlemen, is because what that tells me is a couple things. I knew all these guys are really good at what they do. But they're also, what that tells me is they're very professional musicians that can do other things as well, probably equally as well. And that means a lot, because that means you don't know what to expect except excellent music.
Thank you.
I'm just saying, these are things you look at. It's like looking at a horse. Oh, can he run? Is he afraid of the track? I don't want to bet on him. But when you see all this stuff together, you're like, ooh. My ultimate goal is in 5 years, I'll be at some party somewhere, trying to be cool, trying to impress everybody. No, not really, but I'll mention, oh yeah, Virginia Sweet, they're awesome. I had them on the show, and they're at Guns N' Roses level now and whatnot. And everybody's, whatever, Jamie, no, you didn't. Come on. And, hey, here's the YouTube. There you go.
Go into the deep archives of YouTube at that point.
That's right. And then I win the party. My wife's over there shaking her head going, oh, we got to hear the stories again.
It's the 5th time this week, Jamie.
I know. I'm at that point in our relationship, in our marriage, where I try to pull out a new memory every so often just to keep her off balance. Something she hadn't heard.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, you got to think a little bit about it. Anyway. Yeah, so that's great. That is great. These guys are fantastic, folks. Let's play a track so that everybody, the audience, knows what we're talking about here.
Let's do it.
We've got 2 of them we're going to play tonight. We've got Relevance and Ball and Chain. What should we hit people with first?
Let's kick it off with Ball and Chain.
Awesome. Here it is, folks. This is Virginia Sweet, Ball and Chain.
That's the way it goes. Just step away. I'm leaving you behind. Someone else. The bridge you burned down, I can't believe you. No, not a word you say, the great deceiver. It's how you'll remain. I won't wear your chain anymore. I will break free from the ball and chain. Your ball and chain. I will break free from the ball and chain. Your ball and chain.
And we're back, folks. And we're back. I told you that was Ball and Chain, Virginia Sweet. Fantastic track, fantastic video. And I was just talking to Jason. These are all available platform-wide, wherever you get music. I always tell people when they ask me, they said, you have these cool bands on the show. Where's the best place to get their music? And I always say a merch table. I've never seen a band without a merch table. There's always somebody's girlfriend or some hot girl or guy, whatever, running that table. And it's funny, growing up, that's how I saw a lot of my friends' bands. I'm like,
Running
yeah,
a
when it
merch
comes to you
table?
guys, can I get some tickets? And they're like, can you staple all these flyers to every telephone pole today? And you're running the merch table tonight. Okay, I can do that. And yeah, that's how I did it. But I get that some people are not, they can't go to a live show. They're not in the area. They're in Portugal or somewhere. Yeah, get it, pick it up wherever. If you can, ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing and the secret. And I'm not going to spill the beans. It's not a big secret. Everybody's got Google. They can figure this out. But how it works with a streaming site is think of it as a pie. And there's slices of pie in that pie. I will say, if it was any other type of business, people would probably be brought up on fraud charges. The pies are vastly different that the people who actually make the music than the platform that streams the music, in my opinion. That's all I'm saying.
Preach, man, preach.
I have shit on Spotify too. I don't want to piss Spotify up, but yeah, come on, guys.
We'll get it figured out one day.
Yeah, it just makes more sense for them to get a smaller piece, I think, because they've got much more. There's 10 billion artists on Spotify, and the piece of pie the artists get, there's only one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like going and buying a new car off the lot and you just walk out with a handful of lug nuts.
Yeah, exactly. It's very similar. Very similar. And there's versions of that too, like in my game in the art with galleries and stuff. I don't really work with them, but that's the first question I ask with the gallery. I'm like, what's the split? How many other artists are in there that your guys are trying to sell? Because if it's just me, I don't mind that split because I know they're going to work hard to make their money. If there's 87 other artists in there, though, maybe not so much. And the person selling has stuff in there. I know they're motivated to sell their own stuff.
Yep.
Jamie and his wrinkled dog, they don't really give a shit that much about. And I understand. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just saying how it is. But yeah, music's great. Music's great. And we were talking off camera while the video was playing about motivation, and it's so good for people to hear your take on this because, yeah, you're right. You brought up some great points. Sometimes it's hard to stay motivated to do this stuff.
No doubt. So what I had mentioned to Jamie is that you gotta, and this would apply to any art form. I feel like you gotta love the music because the music doesn't always love you back. And it's the other side of the coin. We are, for lack of better words, living the dream. We're going around playing shows, playing rock music. We're having a good time doing it, and we get to create things out of nothing. We get to meet people and go to all these awesome places and have great experiences. But at the same time, you're on this chase for recognition. It's this never-ending, like, are they going to see me now? Are they going to see me now? Are they going to see me now fight? And it's not out of like a desperation or anything. It's just looking for that validation. And I don't even think it's like a personal validation. It's a validation that what you're creating is being seen.
Absolutely. What you're saying is being heard. Yeah, very often I have a morning blog that I do where it's just a good way to advertise. I'll mention whatever day it is, somebody's birthday or something, some celebrity. Yeah. And then I'll post 9 times out of 10 I painted the person at some point, or somebody's paid me to paint this person or whatever. And then I'll put a picture of the painting up. That's a good form of advertising. They're like, wow, they can knock this person out. I want to get my dad that Metallica painting for his man room for Father's Day. Great thing. But every so often somebody will comment, and they're not buying a painting. They're not even buying a poster, but they're like, oh, I really like the way you did blah, blah, blah on this. And I got to tell you, I walk around the rest of the day, cock of the walk, a little person.
Yeah, you're just that's
up. Because it isn't about the sale necessarily. Don't get me wrong, folks. When people send you a check, that's a great way of saying they're digging what you're doing. Right. But really all you need is the validation of what you're doing, what you're working hard at. Somebody out there in the void gets it or likes it or whatever. And yeah, it isn't about, if somebody were to comment, oh, I really like those glasses you're wearing. It wouldn't be the same thing. It wouldn't.
Yeah.
But it is in a way, like you'll be out to dinner with your wife or something, and there'll be the cute hostess that sets you at gives you a little smile, and you're like, God damn, my old ass still has it. Not that I'm interested in that person, but
no, I get you.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like that when somebody digs your work times 100. It's, whoa, this is so much more important to me than that. But yeah, it's cool. And folks, I tell people this all the time. Mick Jagger doesn't have to go out on stage to pay the light bill. No. Believe me, in my life, there's many times the dryer just died. I'm like, okay, well, let me knock something out, make some money here pretty quick. I'll paint a Marilyn Monroe or something that I know will sell quick. Taylor Swift now, that's the big one. I really should be painting Taylor Swift every day, but then it would, that's a bad plan. But that's it's like an ATM card, and we'll get the dryer fixed or a new one or whatever. But Mick Jagger doesn't have that problem, He owns islands and shit. He doesn't have to do that, but he's an old man, and he's doing that because, 30,000 people saying, I'm digging what you're doing.
Yep.
Is a pretty good feeling.
There's no feeling like it on the planet. Yeah. The feeling of being on stage and having people lose their minds over what you're doing, or even just having them like awestruck where they don't know how to respond, is almost equally as validating. Because that's definitely something that we encounter. Got people coming up to us all the time. They're like, what are you doing here? Why are you not at some arena somewhere? Because especially for a 3-piece, we do have a very full sound. It's a very big sound. And yeah, it doesn't have to be a direct compliment like what you're getting at. It can just be the sheer enthusiasm that they have for what you're doing. And you're like, clearly I'm on the right track right now. Let's keep this going.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, baby, I have been on the wrong track many times. And here's the twist of the knife, is sometimes when you're on that track, the wrong track, oh boy, do you believe in it. You know what I mean? I have wasted so much time on an idea or something, and I'm like, oh, finally, this is the moment. This is the documentary making moment. I've changed art with this. This is it. People are going to be writing theses about this. No, not at all.
Two days later, you go look at it again, and you're like, what was I thinking?
Exactly. But at the time, I really believed it. And I see a lot of that. That's just normal. It's funny, though. We have a friend of ours she was always writing, and then she got serious, and she studied the writing business, very similar to the music business. People get signed and stuff, and you get the big loan that you find out you got to pay back, and all that kind of shit. And so when she was just starting out, we all go out to dinner every so often, me and her now wife and Danny. And she was really long-faced and glum one day. And I said, what the hell's going on, man? What, you get some bad news? She goes, I got my second rejection letter today. When she's starting out. And I said, oh, 2 of them, huh? He said, girl, you're going to have to toughen your skin up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Because just wait, it's coming. And she showed me the thing on her phone, and I'm like, this is pretty nice. They didn't call you any names or anything. Yeah. I was like, wow. They said, keep trying. I said, that isn't always the case. When you're starting out, you got to find your audience, really. And once you do, or you got a good idea what your audience is, then you're creating shit that they want to hear. It makes the game a lot easier.
Yeah, things start to fall in place. And you have a much better idea of a direction of when and where to turn.
Absolutely. Your band is fantastic. We've been saying it's great. One of the things that has always fascinated me about music, one of the things I'm jealous about music and musicians is, and I'll give you folks a good example. I've said this so many times on the show, but it's so true. Each and every one of you out there, each and every guy that's listening or watching this, they may not remember the exact song or even the artist, but they remember the type of music that was playing the first time they ever kissed a girl, like a real kiss. Nobody, I don't care what kind of art was hanging on the wall, nobody remembers the art that was on the wall when that happened. But they can tell you for a fact what kind of music was going on. And it's tattooed in their brain. And to expand on that, really all music made after that just sucks. And they're going to be that middle-aged guy going, yeah, everything, Aerosmith was great until they started singing those love songs. You know what I mean? That's really what they're talking about. That was the moment that things changed in their world.
Crossover.
Yeah, it's usually a pair of long legs or something that's behind that. But you guys are a great rock band. You take the girl, and yeah, she's going to be in love with the singer. Of course she is. I mean, that's the whole point of having a singer.
There's really no other reason.
Some posters. She's going home with you, so that's fine. And she'll look at your tired ass and say, I got to smooch somebody. I might as well smooch this guy. And maybe pretend it's the lead singer, but we don't need to tell him that. Girls are always happy you take them to a rock show.
You got to travel around with doppelgangers. That way you can pawn them off.
There you go. That's cool, though. Let me ask you this. Now, we're going to play another track here. Yeah. You know what? Let's play the other track, and then I'll get into this. Now, the next track is Relevance. I don't know how we were talking before he came on camera, and I mispronounced it somehow. And it
happens all the time. It happens within the band. We say Revelance as well.
Revelance, yeah. I didn't know. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they're this weird little...
I don't even think it's a word. I don't even think Revelance is a word.
No, it sounds like a battle. The Battle of Revelance or something.
Yeah.
Like the Civil War. No, that ain't it. But anyway, here it is. Here's the correct one. This is Relevance. And did I do it again just now?
No,
down my ears.
You nailed
Relevance.
it.
What's relevant? Yeah, Relevance. Yeah, I'm right. Second guessing myself now. Virginia Sweet, check this out.
From me to you, well, it seems so far. on that hill where it seems so far away. I painted the picture that fools me before it washes away. Yeah, before it washes away. I need relevance to pick my head up higher. But there's a distance that I can't occupy. So won't you come out and save me from myself? Oh, save me from myself. Cause I need relevance to pick my head up high. But there's a distance that I can't occupy. So won't you come out and save me? No, won't you come out and save me? I said, so won't you come out and save me from myself? Cause I need a little relevance.
And we're back. We're back. What a great track. Another banger. Let me ask you, this is what I was thinking before we played that. I hear, and I'm thinking to myself, that is perfect. It's master, it's smooth, everything's great on it. That's big, but I'm coming at it, that's what I'm reacting to, is the finished product of that. And I know with my own work, paint a painting of a giant ant coming out of the sea. And people are like, oh, he just woke up and had that. That's a bad example because that's actually what happened. I had a weird dream, but that's normally not the case. But they see the finished product.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, he just rolled out of bed and painted whatever. And I'm like, no, what you're not seeing is that took me 6 days to do, not because it's hard, but because it was fighting me and I couldn't get this right, or that I had to change that, or I had to do. And I threw it in the street and jumped up and down. Then I had to fix all the footprints off. No, I've never thrown one in the street, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes they fight you. But nobody knows that because they see the finished product. Now, with relevance, it seems perfect to me. And you don't have to answer if you don't want to. I'm not trying to go over any boundaries. Was that a hard one or was it an easy one?
I think overall it was actually one that fell in place fairly well.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant.
That's definitely what you're talking about. Those scenarios happen more often than not, and I think that's just a part of the creative process.
Right.
But yeah, this was definitely one that I think things just started to click. Jump, the guitarist, sent over some lyric ideas that he was feeling at the time, and I was reading through them, and I honestly just picked up an acoustic, and I just had this single note drone going on, that which is the main riff behind it now. And it just stuck with me. And then honestly, just the melody came right too for this song. The melody was very quick. And I know rhythm side on the drums, Ricky just right away had the heartbeat of it all. And then the coolest thing about this song, creative wise, is actually what ended up happening in the studio with Mikal Blue. So at the very beginning of the track, you all heard some like Hindu screams and some world percussion going on. And so what had happened is that the very beginning, there was the guitar lead that's happening sounded very Middle Eastern influence to me. And so I'm sitting there and we're getting ready to track vocals, and I hear that piece and I'm like, man, it reminds me of Hindu screams. So I'm in the studio just faking it, trying to do it. And then, so of course, they're recording me this whole time. And so Mikal ended up taking that piece and pitch shifting it, and then we like doubled and tripled it and pitch shifted it all over the place. And then he threw in some tabla and some world percussion stuff. And so all of that ended up inspiring Mikal. He was like, all this made me hungry, and now I want to go get Indian food. So we went and got Indian food for lunch that day. And it's just an extremely memorable situation that happened. But yeah, that's the beginning of the song was created off of a hunger for Indian food and feeling a very Middle Eastern vibe behind one guitar lick. So like little stuff like that ends up happening too.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. One thing leads to another, and it's cool. And it started out with lyrics. Usually, in my experience, I mean, it can go. There's no formula for writing a song, but it's universal. But usually, when I talk to people, they're like, "Oh, I had this riff, or we had this beat, or we had this idea," and the lyrics are usually the last thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
This was the opposite. And
yeah, we've got a few that actually are upside down that way.
That's cool. That's interesting to me. And really, it reminds me the Middle Eastern. And this isn't rock, folks. And I listen to all kinds of music. So it's just what I'm thinking about right now. Really old Peter Gabriel stuff, like that second album of his had a lot of that kind of world beat.
Yeah.
And it was weird. They would do weird, like they'd have the bass drum, they'd put a decay on it, so it stopped, or a gate on it, so it stopped. So you had this big booming that just stopped, and it's no decay at all. And it was a really cool effect. But what I'm saying is it illustrates when you have a good producer and good equipment and good ingredients for the soup to work with, you know what I mean? What you can do, it's amazing. And yeah, studio work. Well, there's a reason you write the checks for going to a producer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Without a doubt, man. They're in their money, that's for sure.
And that's one of the other things about music is you have to realize, folks, these musicians on any level are working real hard, and the creative gears burn, I would say, 5 times the amount of energy. You're like, well, yeah, they're not digging ditches. They're not moving microwaves and refrigerators. Yeah, that's true. But those creative gears, like I said, it's real high octane to keep those going. And so there's so much that goes into music that people don't realize. They think that the band just were at an all-night party with models and they just stumbled into the studio and knocked some stuff out. No, there's a lot. That may be the case, but there's a much more that has to happen to it. That's step one. You know what I mean?
We're like Boy Scouts compared to the thing that you're pointing out here. Yeah, there's no
all the good musicians I know really are.
There's too much going on to waste time away partying, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, it's interesting because I've hung out with a lot of people, a lot of musicians, and yeah, that's really a myth that happens. Because if you're doing a whole bunch of shows night after night, there's no 8 balls. You're not going to get anything done.
You got to be very
about doing
very
a bunch of stuff. Yeah, all the real music, they're drinking weird smoothie stuff with weird stuff in it to keep healthy. And
man.
And my art, painting, nobody gives a shit what I look like. They just care about what's on the wall. I can look like a toad, and that is fine. Nobody cares. That doesn't cost anybody any money. Now, if Jason rolls it into work, when he's put on 50 pounds or so, yeah, there might be a conversation that's had.
We'll have the late life Elvis talk.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, are you on the right track here?
And you notice when Elvis was starting out, he wasn't looking like that either.
You know absolutely not.
No, it's very image conscious, and that's very true. It's interesting. But you guys have a big fan base, and you guys are really adept, I think. And we have in the description below, folks, all the links to everything Virginia Sweet, all the social media links. They're all clickable. You just click on them, and you guys are really good at the social media thing. Do you guys have a team that does that, or do you guys? That's okay. You're young though, so you probably grew up with a smartphone. Really?
I mean, I'm 35. I had a smartphone in my late teens, but it's still. So before I was in a band, I actually had no social media at all.
And he was that cool artsy guy.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, and there's nothing. And you know what? Turns out the cool artsy guy was right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all.
I don't want to find out my aunt's racist. Come on, nobody needs that information.
You end up learning a lot of stuff you never knew you needed to know, and you learn a lot of stuff that you just don't need to know. But no, it's like a bittersweet relationship because it obviously is such a fantastic tool for reaching people that you otherwise would never even know. There's no way they would ever hear about you if the internet and social media didn't exist. However, as everybody knows, it's also a succubus of a pit that can end up, especially like people in our position where people are always looking at numbers and people will immediately they'll immediately make a judgment of whether something's worth their while or not based on a certain number of followers. And I'll tell you, people right now, you're missing out on a lot of good stuff if you're solely going off of numbers, because there's people out there that are doing magical things that just haven't gotten the notoriety to get your attention yet.
Absolutely.
And that's something to internally work with, because you start trying to compare yourself to other people. And that's just horrible road to start going down, because one, you can't compare yourself. It's a completely different situation, different people, different environment, location, et cetera, et cetera. But it's you almost can't stop yourself. You're like, well, why are they doing so well? What do they do differently? But then also you can use it as a learning tool and be like, they did this and it was successful, or they did this and it was successful. And you start trying to find what pieces that you can genuinely attach to and use as a tool yourself, and at the same time other things, and you stay away from it like hot fire.
And there's a lot of stuff. I'm saying this because I know there's a lot of new bands, new painter, whatever, new creatives out there, young creatives. If you do that, one of the reality is, and I only know this because I get approached many times every morning. I come in, stumble in here in the 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, turn on the computer, and I'll have a bunch of emails, or what does my wife call them? DMs, direct messages from people wanting to sell me likes. We have this farm and you can get blah, blah, blah on a post or whatever. And really that does nothing for me, because the bots are not going to be buying, they're not even going to be buying a poster of mine. Nope. So it's a waste of time to do that, other than people look and go, oh, 1 million people are liking this or that or whatever. But a lot of it isn't real. And I will expand on that for the youngsters on here that see TikTok influencers, Instagram, Facebook, not so much on Facebook anymore, but it's probably there, of people living this life. You know what I mean? The rock star life. They're like, oh, look at this. They're blah, 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 and all this and that. And it was funny, when all this social media started, I had a friend of mine who's a electronic music DJ and a big name. And we were talking on the phone one day, and he goes, oh, let me send you a picture here. This is interesting. He goes, you always see these DJs in their private G6s, their private Learjets and stuff. He goes, they'll show a picture. He goes, here's mine. And he had a picture of him peeling back. It was a magnetic logo of his that they had printed up, and they put that on the door of the airplane, the magnet. So it looks like it's his plane. It's not his. He goes, I figured you'd like that. And I said, shit, I live in South Florida. People rent Lamborghinis all the time just to show up to a club in. They don't own that shit. But my point is a lot of the stuff you see online, don't write the check on that, because a lot of it's fake. A lot of these people are living these fabulous lives that aren't so fabulous. And there's real people out there, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if you want their. I'm sure there's a lot of people that look at Jason and go, man, I want to be the lead singer of a cool rock band, and it's knowing these and doing all this shit. But what they're not seeing is all the fucking work. You know what I mean? All the work. Sometimes waiting to get paid, not having health insurance, and you catch a cold. That's a scary thought, man, because that shit can lead to stuff. Yeah, it could all be over. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I could get in a car crash and the hand is gone. It's hard to paint with a Captain Hook, with a hook hand. Could probably do it. I don't know. And Jason's the same as me. If our particular contribution to what we're doing stops, a lot of shit stops. It's like a train without the engine. There's still, or a big chunk of the engine. There's still, you've got other people in the band, but they're all the engine. But, and it's weird, is the more successful you get, the more you go on. There's certainly suddenly a lot of mouths to feed. There's a lot of people counting on Virginia Sweet doing well. You gotta, it's hard to stop. Oh, man. I'm telling you, they, not just that. I once knew a guy, this is many years ago, who liked to party. He was going through his party stage in his life, and he was telling me this story. And he got over that, gave everything up. Just he didn't go to rehab, didn't hit bottom, or he just stopped one day. He had one of those moments where he said, "Okay, I don't want to do this anymore," and he stopped. And he ran into his friend's wife, and she gave him the cold shoulder. And he wound up asking his friend, who he used to get a lot of stuff from. He said, "Man, did I do something messed up with your wife or something where I offended her or something? Because she really hates my ass now." And the guy said, "Oh, don't worry about it." And he kept bugging. He goes, "No, I want to know. What did I do?" And the guy told him, he goes, "We had to move after you quit partying." He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Couldn't afford the rent we were paying anymore." That's what I mean by mouths to feed. You know what I mean? That stopped and that affected other people. And I'm not saying he should have continued. Of course not. But yeah, when you're doing, nobody needs to be in that position. But yeah, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work that goes into this stuff, folks. And Virginia Plain. I was thinking of the Roxy music track. Virginia Sweet is a fantastic band. If you look at their stuff visually, it's cool. I'm looking at their website, from the logo, that cool logo I like. That's a good logo. I meet all these young bands, Jason, especially metal bands. They're all like, I'm like, "You need to work on your logo." And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You don't need a castle with a dragon flying around. You don't need a moat with alligators in it. And when you shrink that down to a Zippo lighter, it's just a blob. You're not going to see any of that shit anyway." Virginia Sweet, that logo would look good on a black Zippo. Are you kidding me? That would be, you're the cool guy. I'm just saying. Or a shirt or whatever. That's a good logo. That does it. Yeah, and the website's good. I'm an old man, and if it's easy for me to find my way around it, that's a good thing. And that's a good thing. You guys got some cool merch. What are you talking about? Oh, no, I just clicked on it. I'm saying all this. It's going to be back. It's coming soon, folks. It's coming soon. Yeah. But click on the tour schedule, though. Jeez Louise. You guys are doing all kinds of shit. Jeez. See, that takes time. People don't know. These venues don't just call up Jason and go, "Hey, can your band come?" Sometimes, if you get to a point, that'll start happening. Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth and checks being written and all kinds of shit that goes on behind the scenes. The band just doesn't, the tour bus just doesn't pull up out front and the band, "Yeah, I guess we'll play this place." You don't want to wind up like the Blues Brothers. Remember in that movie where they went to the country bar? They're like, they knew one song. They just kept playing. They're like, "Why do they have chicken wire up?" Bottles start flying. Jesus. I've done some art shows in places like that. Yeah, but it's part of the fun being, getting going. But you're not just getting going. 81 shows in a year, that's a lot. That's a lot. And it isn't just filling out a form, folks. You got to set that shit up. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work that nobody's seeing. Those in the know it because they're like, "Wow, that's impressive to me." Yeah, and the graphics and whatnot. You guys, even the photos. You go into the band page on here. The photo that's a fantastic promotion. They obviously take pictures of rock stars. They know what they're doing. That's a good photo. Nice, nice. Yeah, this is great. This is great. And look at you guys. You guys got the look going. This is money in the bank. I'm digging this. That's cool, man. That is cool. I think it's cool that you're in the Southeast too, based in the Southeast now, because I agree. There's a lot going on in the Southeast. Just look at Atlanta. How many movies and shit that there's money there. And I remember about 10 years ago, I was telling somebody, I'm not, it isn't that I'm not a big country fan or anything. It's just I don't know that much about it. I know a little bit, but they're like, man, it seems like a lot of country stuff's like even in the mainstream now. I'm like, yeah. I said, I'll tell you why I know there's a big country push now is Rolling Stone started doing like the month before a country edition of that was all about country musicians there. And I said, if those cats are spending that money, that means there's money to be made. And I remember I had an art show in Nashville and I rolled into town. First thing I saw was cranes and work being done on the skyline. Everybody was working. There were heavy earth movers were moving earth. And what that tells me, nobody just builds shit like that when there's no money there. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, there's money. And if they're building condos, that's a lot of walls going up. Walls need paintings. I need to be talking to people here. And yeah, it's sold a lot in Nashville. Still do. But it's you got to be aware of all this stuff. And if you're in a new band, I'm not saying focus primarily on the business side of it, because you have to. The business side is great, but what you have to do is have the product to sell. You know what I mean? You have to have your art to apply the business shit too. And usually, in my experience, the way you make good art or become a good painter or a good musician or whatever is you do this shit a lot. Practice that if you do something enough, you tend to get better at it. You ever look at old, or in your case, listen to old stuff or whatever that you've done, and you're like, Jesus Christ, what do I? Yeah, exactly. In my blog that I was talking about, it was Steve Stevens' birthday. He's a guitar player for Billy Idol. And so I'm like, well, I don't have a Steve Stevens painting, but I got a Billy Idol one from back in the day. I remember painting it. It was like 20 years ago or some shit. And I looked at that and I'm going, oh man, do I even want to post this? And I used to complain about my wife's quit complaining about that stuff because somebody paid money then for that. You know what I mean? And they love it. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to redo all that. She's, no, you don't. No, you don't. You want to keep that and make new stuff. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. She's always right, but Jesus, that's rough though. Yeah, it's part of the circus. But yeah, I can't even imagine you guys doing weird, not as good as the stuff you're doing now. But that's all I know, and it's so. That's true. That's very true. I mean, I have found it's easier to maybe make better stuff if you're in a good spot. You're doing things when you're not in a good spot, it definitely seeps into your work. At least in my case, it has. Oh, that's fantastic. You guys are so cool and a lot of fun. I wish I knew more venue owners and stuff down here because I'd love to get you guys to come down here. When I know you guys are probably doing the promo, releasing a single every month, something like probably not every month. Nice. Cool. Very cool. Why? I definitely want to have you back on because, and I'm as a fan, I'm looking so forward to this because I am such a fan. And you're a good hang, Jason. You're a good hang. You do enough of these shows, and this hasn't happened in years and years. But I remember back in the day when I was starting out, had this guy on, and he was very serious. He was like, a lot of people throw around the word rock star a lot, and I'm thinking, yeah, we're not going to tonight. You know what I mean? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it was one of those. But yeah, exactly. Exactly. But no, one of the things is you know what you're doing. And it's nice to hang out with someone and talk with someone that gets it. And folks, if you're new at doing what you're doing, I'm not saying it's not fun to hang out with you. You will get it. You will get it. And you may already do. But it's Jason, you probably will agree with me. Isn't it nice to be past a lot of the nonsense. You know what I mean? To be in a place there's more nonsense that's going to happen. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It never ends. Yeah, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm so old, Jason. You don't even. I made my wife dinner last night. She comes home from her straight job, and she was eating it, and I'm like, "So what do you think?" She goes, "This slaps," and I'm like, "Is that a good?" I said, "I'll be right back. I got to get my. I need some more vape juice out of the studio." I went in here where the computer is. Slap positive or negative? Looking this shit up. I'm old, man. I don't know what WhatsApp is. Yeah, well, I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. But these youngsters keep us young. That's part of it. Anyhow, it reminds me of a terrible joke I once heard. I'm trying to think of the comedian who did. I can't think of him right now. The guy from Full House. Everybody thought was real wholesome. Turns out, as a comedian, he really wasn't. The dark hair. He passed away. Yeah, I can't either. But he had this fantastic joke he did. I saw him perform stand up, and he goes, yeah, someday I'm going to meet a gal that's just perfect and nice and everything, and then I'm going to date her daughter. And terrible joke. Funny if you're an old man. Probably not if you're a young gal. True. Anyhow, I had so much fun tonight. You're awesome. Yeah, keep. When's the next show? Is it coming up or? Yeah, have you been up there before? Nice. Very cool. Exactly. There it is. That's fantastic. That is awesome. I have a friend of mine who does this weird paranormal YouTube channel, and they talk about all kinds of weird shit, Bigfoot and shit like that. But he has a whole episode. I had been to Montauk. I went to a party there one time when I lived up in that area, and I did not know. I'd never heard of the Montauk Monster. Apparently, there's a cryptid up there. I'm going to send you the link, Instagram or something. And yeah, it's weird stuff. Weird. I didn't even know all this stuff. Apparently, Lyme disease started. There was a government like base or something where they made all the. Yeah, Plum Island. That's it. Yeah, that's. I knew none of this. I was like, holy shit. Oh, I had no idea. I had no idea. My wife's into all that shit. She watches all those ghost shows and shit, and I'm not that much fun because I watch that. I'm like, they're like, we're picking up weird electrical signal. I'm like, yeah, because you have a boom mic like right over you. That's the electrical signal. You know what the hell's wrong with you? Plus, I would be terrible at that. If my house was haunted, I'm like, if you got time to lean, you got time to clean. So I want these dishes done. That's right. Where you guys are stretching canvas. Got to make some money anyhow. I'm telling you, that's how my mind works. I was outside. We don't have kids. You got kids? Okay, I don't either. I was outside doing some. When you own a house, people, you start doing all these projects when you get a certain age. So I'm outside doing one of my projects, and I had the thought, like, man, it would be great. Some 12-year-old me's out here doing this shit instead. I suddenly understood my father a lot better. I need the. Then I looked up expenses, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's worth it. It's more expensive than a dog, a lot. And they don't even like you after a certain time. Hey, I had a lot of fun tonight. Keep doing what you're doing because you're real good at it. And best to the guys. And I can't wait to talk to you too after the Montauk show to see how that went and whatnot. Yeah, I'll have you back anytime, man. Very cool. Folks, like I said, clickable links. Virginia Sweet is the name of the band. And folks, remember, the reason you're friends with the weirdos that you're friends with is common interests. They dig the same stuff you dig. That's why you're friends. So when you find a cool band you like or something, get the word out. Let people know, man, because and then you can be that cool person that knows. When I was a kid, this is youngsters won't know this, but back in the day, because we didn't have social media, you have to understand that. And you could dig a band. Oh man, it didn't matter. You dug the band, but you knew nothing about them other than what maybe was in a magazine or on a record sleeve. you had no contact, believe me. And that's probably a good thing. Neil Peart didn't need any input from me on the late new Rush song I had an idea about. He was doing fine. But the one person that was very knowledgeable, the Buddha of the record store, there was always some older kid that worked there, and he knew, oh, you like that? Who produced that? Blah, blah, blah. And they used this when they did. And I don't know how he found all that shit out, but he knew everything about music. You could get a little taste of that with your friend group when you introduce them to a cool new band. I'm just saying. You win the party. And, yeah, exactly. Very cool. Folks, remember, the world's still weird. Be patient with people. If it takes the waitress or the waiter a little time to bring you your refill of coffee, it's not their fault. They're probably waiting on a lot of tables. Just be cool. Be a good hang. Yeah. And keep listening to Virginia Sweet because they rock. That'll make your day. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next time. Yep, anytime, Jason.
This has been pop art painter Jamie Roxx's Pop Roxx Radio Talk Show. It has been executive produced by Jamie Roxx, recorded at his studio in Deerfield Beach in South Florida. All rights reserved by Pop Roxx Limited. Hannah Oli, Pop Roxx Radio. Estás escuchando Jamie Roxx de Pop Roxx Radio. Manténganse al tanto.
Hej, det här är Hicks från Sverige och ni lyssnar till Pop Roxx Radio med Jamie Roxx.